Hey everyone, it's Abigail, your host of Nothing Left Unsaid. I'm super excited to be back in the studio. We've got a great season 2 planned for you. We're less than 2 months into 2026 and already it's been a shit show of a year. Here's a few things that have been on probably everyone's radar as of recently. For one thing, the Epstein files, they continue to come out despite Trump's DOJ doing their best to engage in a massive cover-up. But one thing is absolutely clear is that the most despicable and horrible things, worse than we could have imagined, are what is in those files. We are literally living in a hellscape reality ran by billionaire pedophiles who ran a massive sex trafficking ring. They raped and tortured little girls, and these survivors deserve justice. Our billionaire class is literally filled with pedophile rapists, and they've all been engaged in a massive cover-up of this. It is absolutely disgusting, and unfortunately, these types of people are who have always ran our government since the beginning of this country. Now, moving on to ICE. Democrats in Congress just voted against Department of Homeland Security funding because the White House wouldn't agree to even the most basic of ICE reforms, even as we're seeing ICE agents brutalizing, kidnapping, disappearing, and murdering people in the streets. This is a huge reminder that our pressure is doing something, and I want to be super clear that the reforms that Dems were asking for, of course, do not go nearly far enough. They are not proactive. However, this is a huge change from just last year when, shutting down the government over ICE was not even a concept in these Democrats' minds. And it is because they are seeing the amount of pressure that we are putting on them that is where we're at now. But always remember, that is not far enough. ICE needs to be abolished. So many of the people that are listening to this podcast are probably older than that agency. Like, this is not an agency that can be reformed. The purpose of it is to brutalize and to kidnap people and to traffic them, all for corporate shareholder profit. And that's very important to remember, is that there are people profiting off of this complete inhumanity, and we need to keep calling that out. We will not accept this cruelty, this invasion of our neighborhoods, of our lives. And further than abolishing ICE, we actually need to prosecute all of these motherfuckers just like they did back in Nazi Germany. So as always, abolish ICE, fuck ICE. One thing that is slightly funny is I've been seeing a lot of articles about these ICE agents going on Reddit to complain that they are not getting their bonuses and all of the money that they were promised by Trump, which it should be no surprise to anyone. Trump is a massive scam artist, and anybody who's been paying attention for the last few decades knows that. I also want to bring the conversation back to Minnesota. As everyone is aware of what's been going on there the last few weeks. Now Trump is saying that they are pulling ICE out of Minnesota, and to be very clear, we should not take them at their word for that. Unless people on the ground in Minnesota are confirming that that is true, then the Trump regime, they'll say whatever they need to, because they know that they have a PR crisis, which is another indicator that the pressure that we are putting on is working, and we cannot let up. We need to make sure that we are continuing to keep up with what is happening in Minnesota. I don't know about anybody else, but I think the content that I've been seeing out of there has been dramatically decreased over the last few weeks since the shooting of Alex Pretty. And I have to assume that these social media oligarchs are suppressing that content. But what I have seen, of the few videos that I have seen, are people from Minnesota saying, the federal occupation of our state is not over. People are hiding in neighbors' homes, things like that. And we cannot think that just because Trump says they're pulling out means that they are. All it means is that they know that Americans are fucking furious about what they're doing. And we know that ICE is not planning on letting up. They are buying massive warehouses in different places across the country so that they can use them as concentration camps where people will be crammed in and tortured and many will be killed in custody. Last year was one of ICE's deadliest years in decades, which, as I said, only a few decades is how long ICE has been around. But in Surprise, Arizona, just nearby Phoenix, they just bought a $70 million warehouse that they paid in cash with from a group called the Rockefeller Group. And they're planning to convert that into a concentration camp. And that is completely unacceptable. Like, these will be black site concentration camp detention facilities in which people will be disappeared to. We know that horrific human rights abuses will happen in these camps. There are plenty of stories that have come out for years, frankly, and it will only get worse. And the fact that we're seeing these ICE agents literally execute people in the street on camera in broad daylight. That's what they're doing on camera, and frankly, like, to white people. The shit that we know will be going down in these torture camps will be 1,000-fold worse, and we cannot allow that to happen. We have to keep fighting back. One thing that I think is really important that we need to be doing is putting a public face onto the people that are profiting from this human trafficking industry, because that's what it is, like the Rockefeller Group in Surprise. We've got John Kavanaugh, who wants to make it illegal for people to warn each other about ICE activity in their neighborhoods. The things that would be criminalized under his bill include literally blowing a whistle, which is something that people have been using to let others in the area know when there's ICE present. He wants to ban posting on the internet about it. Last year, he attacked State Senator Annalise Ortiz for sharing an ICE alert on her social media, and even would go as far as making a hand signal. Like, this is all the shit that these legislators, these conservative legislators, claim to care about. The First Amendment, the Constitution, all that shit is out the window. They do not give a fuck about any of that. They want to stop all of us from speaking about what we are seeing with our own eyes, from warning each other, from organizing, as we have been, to push these fuckers out. It is not against the law to warn the people in your community that masked, armed, secret police are in your neighborhood, and with what we're seeing online, they are beating people, they are disappearing them, they are murdering them. That is not against the law to warn people about that. And if it were ever to be against the law, fuck that law. These people literally show up to the Capitol every single day, ready to make a mockery of our rights. They don't give a fuck about due process. They don't give a fuck about any of the things that they claim to care about. And if you ever need another example of that, just look to the Epstein files and how they're behaving on that. There's another disgusting bill that would stop undocumented people from getting bank accounts. So basically, you can live here, you can work here, you can pay taxes here, but you cannot open a bank account or send money to your family or get a loan. Day after day, when Arizonans are struggling to pay bills, this is what these legislators go to the Capitol and waste our time with. And that's true for across the country. As Americans are struggling to put food on the table, pay rent, utility bills are increasing, and all of these things are happening because of policy that is being created by these elected officials. And at that same time, they're stealing our money for our health care and using it to triple ICE's budget, which is what they did last year. It's completely unacceptable. It really shows where their priorities are, and the priorities are this: cover up the Epstein files and the systematic rape and torture of countless little girls and boys, for that matter. Number 2, steal money from your health care. Number 3, give that money to ICE so their secret police can continue to brutalize and terrorize our communities and try to stop us from standing up and taking our power back. So now I guess I just want to really just talk a little bit about the current state of things in Arizona, and kind of just like my take on what's going on. And in general, I couldn't be more proud or inspired to see the way that people are showing the fuck up every single day for their communities. I think one of the coolest things to see is like how decentralized some of these protests have been. Like, and it seems like on any given day you can find a group somewhere in the valley that is doing some type of demonstration or protest against the atrocities that we are seeing. And in many cases, these are not, organized by organizations. These are people, just everyday people showing up and deciding like, hey, let's go show up at that ICE building and bring some signs and a megaphone and say fuck ICE. Like, that is amazing to see. And students are walking out in high schools across Arizona. Young people, of course, as always, the forefront of any movement. People are demanding that their city councils develop real proactive plans to resist ICE. Just a few weeks ago in Phoenix, Arizona, people showed up to the Phoenix City Council to demand that they create proactive policies to keep ICE out of our city. And this happened in the context of, Mayor Kate Gallego decided to have a work study session to discuss the city of Phoenix's policies and not to take public comment during that during the session in which they were discussing this. And, the policies that they proposed were frankly weak as hell. They would do nothing to stop ICE from brutalizing our communities. They would give the city, time to document and then possibly investigate and then possibly like do a lawsuit, and all these things would happen after the fact, after people already disappeared and murdered. And this does not go far enough. This does not meet the moment. And it's really great to see people showing up and demanding more and demanding that we take a real like proactive stance in advance of harm being done to our people. Politicians, by and large, we can't trust them to have our backs. We have to trust ourselves and our communities and each other to show up and protect each other. And, thousands of people are getting trained for community defense, and there's Know Your Rights forums happening all of the time, medic trainings, all of these things that really enable us to show up collectively to resist what is happening. I mentioned the surprise warehouse that was sold. That building is bigger than the size of 7 football camps. 7 football fields. That's massive. And, they're saying like, oh, it'll be a 1,500 detention facility. Bullshit. They're planning to put way more people than that in such a large warehouse. And, the city of the people of Surprise, Arizona, within a few days of that news breaking, showed up to 1,000 people showed up to their city council meeting with very little notice of that, because people do not want this in their backyards. They do not want ICE in their communities, and that message has been loud and clear. Kristi Noem was in Arizona. She's been in Arizona a couple of times in the last few weeks, but one time in particular, people found out where she was staying and they went to her hotel and they protested outside of there. I've seen, people trying to find out where ICE agents are staying when they're invading our cities, like what hotels, what Airbnbs, and going outside of them and making noise all night. And that is what they deserve. These people do not deserve a moment's rest, a moment's peace, frankly, for the rest of their lives. So it's really inspiring to see the way that people are really not standing for this. And, I think like white people in particular, it is our time to show up. Black and brown people have been fighting this fight since before this country was founded. And it is really our time, and it is really up to us to like show up and say that we will not accept this, because it's with the murders of people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy that we've actually seen some movement from people, and it's disappointing that that's what it had to take. But the second best time to show up is now. So make sure you're doing that, and make sure that you are wielding the privilege that you have and showing up. Just a few weeks ago, several organizations held a benefit at Club Contact in which they had DJs, bands, multiple stages, vendors selling things, and they raised $20,000 at the Voices United benefit to donate to legal defense for immigrants, which is really amazing to see. So there's so many different methods to get involved and to show up for people and, you know, just do it. And I think the energy that we all need to keep is, like, word to Cardi B. The fact that we have the White House beefing with Cardi B and just celebrities in general in the year of our Lord 2026 is Cardi B posted on social media, if ICE shows up, we'll jump their asses. And, like, that is exactly correct. This is also not me endorsing any violence, but that is the energy that we need to keep. That's the energy that we needed from our elected officials. And if that's not the energy they're going to bring, they can get the fuck out. Mayor Kate Gallego. So, yeah, shout out Cardi B. We always knew she didn't play, but we need to show up with that. So, yeah, my biggest advice is to keep showing up for each other, get involved in your community, go to a community defense training, show up to a protest, write your elected officials, get involved in mutual aid, especially, you know, right now. I think there's going to be an increase in, unfortunately, people are afraid to leave their homes for a good reason, for fear of being beat or taken or killed. And there's so many ways to get involved to help, just in small ways, such as making a grocery delivery so that people don't have to take the risk of leaving their home and going to the supermarket that gets targeted by ICE all the time because they're racist fucks. So keep showing up. There are also good things that are happening. Like, make sure to celebrate the wins. It's really frustrating to know that Democrats are asking for so little in terms of the baseline position should be abolish ICE. But the movement that we are seeing is because of the pressure of us, and that deserves some celebrating, not too much celebrating because there's still a lot of work to do. But, you know, we've also got things, there's occasionally a good thing that happens in the Arizona legislature. Just a couple weeks ago, a bill that would provide funding for free school meals actually passed out of several committees. If you're not familiar with the AZLEG, this is not something that happens very often because with conservative legislators in charge, they get to decide what even makes it into a committee, what gets heard and what doesn't. So the fact that this is going through is really exciting. Really would love to see more legislation like that. Like, these are the things that actually keep our communities secure and our families safe, point blank. We've also got Chris Mays standing strong on ICE, warning them that she will hold them accountable for what they do in Arizona. And it seems like every other day she's also announcing a new lawsuit to win money back for Arizona that Trump stole because he's a petty little bitch. So we're fortunate to have her in office right now, and I hope that she continues to keep that heat and that fire. Another good thing is that we're in Arizona, but it's not too hot yet, so get outside, unplug for a little bit. I would say make sure you're still paying attention to what's going on because we cannot be looking away, as overwhelming as it is, but make sure you unplug and take those moments to be around the people that recharge you and get outside in nature. All in all, my hope this year is that people continue to keep fighting back, that the depraved lunatics that are in charge of our government are held fully accountable for their crimes against humanity, and that people are not afraid to continue calling out what they see. And that's definitely what we'll continue to do here on Nothing Left Unsaid. We've got a great season 2 planned for you with some amazing interviews and some awesome conversations that I can't wait to release. And thank you all for being here and getting through all of this together.